Network models. In this session, we will be discussing about the concept of network models. So before discussing about network models, we have to know about layered tasks. So what are layered tasks? So we generally in our daily life use the concept of layers. For example, we'll have a small example of two friends communicating through the postal mail. This is sender 1 and this is the receiver 1. Okay. Now if this sender want to send the mail to this receiver, so what he has to do? So he has to write a letter, he has to put that letter in an envelope and he has to drop that letter in the mailbox. Later, after dropping the letter into the local mailbox or local post office, now the letter is carried from this particular mailbox to the post office. Okay, now from the post office, now the letter is delivered to the carrier. Now let us say there is a postman. The letter is delivered to the carrier by this particular post office. Now what this carrier is going to do? The parcel is carried from the source to the destination via the postman. Now the postman delivers this letter, okay, and he will help the letter to be received by the receiver. But before that, the letter is delivered to the carrier to the post office. That is, the letter is delivered from this particular postman to the post office. Now the post office in turn again delivers the letter to the local mailbox of that particular receiver. Now the receiver will be taking the letter from this particular local mailbox, that is, the letter is picked up, it is removed from the envelope and the actual information will be read by the receiver. If you see here, these two are the higher layers, these two are the middle layers and these two are the lower layers. If you see, the higher layers are using the services of the middle layers and middle layers are in turn using the services of the lower layers. So without these lower layers or without this middle layer, the higher layer cannot work properly. So this is how the layered tasks are going to work out, and this is how we are using the concept of layers in our daily life. So in the concept of layered tasks, here the writing of a letter, putting of the envelope and dropping it into the mailbox has been given as the functionality of higher layer, and this middle layer has been given its own functionality. The lower layer has been given its own functionality. So according to the types of functionalities a particular person is doing, now we have divided all these works into different categories and we have divided them into the layers. So in the same way, now when we are discussing about the different network models, each and every layer is given some functionality, and according to that functionality it is grouped under different types of layers. Now coming to the OSI model. It is established in 1947, International Standards Organization, which is also called as ISO. It is a multinational body which is dedicated to worldwide agreement on international standards. Okay, so this ISO standard covers all the aspects of network communications and which is given by Open Systems Interconnection model. Okay, so do remember, ISO is the organization and OSI is the model. So here we have the 7 layers of the OSI model. So right from the first layer is physical layer, and the second layer data link layer, third layer network layer, fourth layer transport layer, fifth layer session layer, sixth layer presentation layer, and the last layer and the seventh layer is application layer. So according to the functionalities, okay, so all these layers have this model is completely divided into 7 different types of layers, where each layer is responsible of performing some particular functionality. So that is the reason it has been divided into layers. Here we will see the interaction between the layers in the OSI model. So this is device A and this is device B, they are communicating. So they will be communicating through the physical link, but what actually happens in that is, so all the communication between the peer layers in the source or device A's OSI layers and in the device B's OSI layers will be as follows. So this is the physical layer, okay, and this is the physical communication. So this is the physical layer in device A and this is the physical layer in device B. And now we have data link layer, network layer, and so on up to application layer. Now we have some interfaces. See, we have this is 7/6 interface, that is the interface between the layer 7 and the layer 6, and here we have 6-5 interface, which is nothing but the interface between the presentation layer and session layer and so on. Okay, so now here the communication between these layers, that is application layer, presentation layer, session layer and transport layer, is peer-to-peer protocol. That is, they directly communicate with each other. That is, application layer in the device A communicates with the application layer in the device B, application layer in the presentation layer communicates with the application layer in the device B. So like this. But here when you see the physical layer, data link layer and network layer, so between this device A and device B there is a physical communication. So the physical communication, if it is there, so there should be some devices which are nothing but called as intermediate nodes or routers or anything for that matter. So those physical nodes or intermediate nodes will be having 3 layers, that is physical layer, data link layer and network layer. So these devices will not have any transport layer to application layer, only the source device and the destination device will be having all these if we have employed ISO-OSI model. But the intermediate devices called routers will not have transport layer to application layer, they will be having only physical layer to the network layer. So that is the reason we have in between the network layer of this particular node, data link layer and physical layer also, and we have network, data link layer and physical layer of this particular intermediate node also. So this figure shows the interaction between the layers in the OSI model. So here we have an exchange using the ISO-OSI model. So here we have a device A, here we have a device B. Now device A want to send the information to device B. So now what it has done, so it has got its data D7, now it is adding a header as H7. Okay, so now after adding the header H7 to the D7, now from this 7th layer the information will be going into the 6th layer. Do remember, now this D6 consists of both H7 and D7, that is the header part and data part in the 7th layer now will be given to the data part of the 6th layer. Now this 6th layer in turn will be again adding its own header called H6. Now this H6 and D6 is again given as a data part to the D5. Now D5 will add its own header called H5 and so on and so forth, and finally coming to the data link layer, a trailer has also been added here. Okay, so now the concept of adding headers to this particular data part and putting this header and data part in the data part of the next layer or the next lower layer is called encapsulation. So here the process of encapsulation is going to be done. So this is the physical layer, wherein the physical layer data is represented in the form of bits. We will be discussing about the different layers and their functionalities in the forthcoming sessions. Now this information is given to the transmission medium, which is the physical transmission medium, and now in the physical transmission medium data is transmitted, and now from this transmission medium again it will be given to the destination device. Now from the destination device again here we have a physical layer, here we have a data link layer, and now see here, now the values in the physical layer which are given in yellow color. So this is the complete data part. Now this complete data part is again now subdivided into header part, data part and trailer part. Now this data part, that is from here to up to here, this is D2. Now this is given to the network layer, that is in the next higher layer. Now this data 2 is again divided into H3 and D3 in the network layer. Now again this data 3 is again divided into H4 and D4. See here we are adding the headers, now here we are removing the headers. So the concept of removing the headers is called decapsulation. So encapsulation happens at the sender side and decapsulation happens at the receiver side. So this is how data is being transferred from one place to another place using ISO-OSI model.